Hello, welcome. This is your pelvic floor power practice. It's a little bit more than the exercises, and it goes hand in hand with the pelvic floor power podcast. All you're going to need today is a resistance band. I recommend that you practice with a blanket over your mat, on a rug, or on carpet. Here we go. Start laying down. Have your band nearby. Place your hands on your front ribs, allow the inner edge of your knees to drop together, and do a few rounds of conscious breathing. Every inhale, the ribs expand front, back, side to side. Every exhale, the front ribs come in and down, the back body stays full. And after a few rounds, focusing on the diaphragm, notice if your pelvic floor picks up the rhythm. There's an expansion, almost an opening on the inhale. And then on the exhale, the pelvic floor gathers in and up. It's almost like, one pelvic floor specialist would talk about that arcade game, the claw, right? The opening and then the closing and lifting. And it's one of those images that you'll never forget once someone says it. It can be really helpful. And I try to use natural, nature-based images for the body because we have an organic structure. But sometimes our modern daily examples are really potent. Now, to the best of your ability, keep your breathing going. And you're going to slide your hands underneath your head. And everything we do with the next few poses, you're going to be sliding, not lifting and moving, but sliding. So, for example, you're going to slide your left elbow towards your left hip. And then reach the right leg out. You're going to slide it out straight, press through the right heel. Breathe into the right side ribs. If you get a little crampy or sticky in the left ribs or left shoulder, just side bend less, go a little bit more towards neutral. And then drop the left knee open to the left. 3 more breaths. We start practice with releasing because often what's keeping us from getting what we want are old habits and tension patterns, you might call them, where we're just gripping at a subconscious level. So when we take the time to release and relax at the beginning of practice, it's like shaking the Etch-a-Sketch. You have more opportunity to create something new. Now, left knee up, slide the right leg up, slide your torso back to center, and then slide over to the right. Allow the left side ribs, left armpit to open, and then left leg out, and then right knee open. A few rounds of breathing here. And then right knee up, left knee up, slide the torso back, and then slide both legs out. And the next movements in the exercises, we're going to call it tree slides. You're going to let the right knee drop out to the side and then bring the right leg up and then extend the right leg out. And do that about 8 times. Remember that no pull, no hop. You want to feel like the leg is lifted on puppeteer strings. It's very complete. Inner thigh stays released and relaxed and open the whole time. Do 2 more. You can link the moving with your breathing, but you don't have to. And then change sides. This work comes from T.S. Little's Sathya practice, also Thomas Hanna's somatics. It's got some yoga asana woven in. Very potent, very, very potent for reprogramming movement pathways. Do 3 or 4 more. Very good. And then you're going to unpack your arms. Bring the legs up. Hands and fists beside your outer hips. And you're going to drop the right knee open. The sole of the right foot's going to come against the left foot. And then bring the right leg back up. And then you're going to let the left knee drop open. And again, the sole of the foot is against the other one. Your fist is providing the same type of support a block normally does. It's also starting to prime the outer hip muscles for engaging. Okay, and then soles of the feet together, both knees wide, hands underneath the outer hips. If the fists are too much, you can do palms open and the palms down, and then the backs of the hands kind of karate chop into the outer hips. 3 rounds of breathing here. With the knees wide like this, the pelvic floor is quite open, so you have a tremendous opportunity to relax and release, let it expand on inhale, but also gather it up and in on the exhale. And then use your hands to bring your knees back together. Butterfly bridge is next. You're going to bring the soles of your feet together-ish, knees not quite as open, and then press your elbows down and lift your hips up. You want to feel the outer hips engage. It's like the pelvis is being lifted in a sling, and then lower down slowly. Do that 2 more times. You can hold for a breath or 3. When I first started doing this, I was shaking and quaking and quivering and could barely hold it. And it was because it's almost like a direct hit on these weak, for most of us, outer hip muscles. 1 more, lift up. Now, when you're doing strengthening stuff, the movement of the pelvic floor is going to be less obvious, and that's just something to know. Next, you're going to take your resistance band and you're going to place it on your shins for clamshells. If you don't have a resistance band, don't worry about it. This just adds a little oomph. And once the band is on your shins, you're going to roll onto your side, and then your hand goes on your sacrum, belly back, ribs in and back, and you're going to start to lift and lower the top leg. Remember that there's no rocking, no turning. I often have to kind of round my upper body to stay focused on the lower body. And part of pulling the belly back, ribs in and back is you're getting that stack of pelvis and rib cage. Here we're engaging the outer hips, which, like the hamstrings, help to stabilize the pelvis. Let's do 3 more. 3, 2, 1, and then roll over to the second side. I'll generally keep the hand on my sacrum no matter how many I do or how often I practice this. I have one of those bodies that likes to cheat with the pelvis, and the sides of my pelvis can get super wonky, which leads to lower back stuff, SI stuff. But again, when the pelvis is stable, if you think of like a trampoline, it needs those springs so that the center part has bounce. The springs anchor it, and it's the same with the outer hip muscles and the sitting bones. They anchor the pelvis so then the pelvic floor can have its spring. 3, 2, 1. Now keep that band and you're going to roll onto your back. And you're going to slide the band onto your feet for the core press and pedal. Let's start with hands on ribs and do 3 rounds of breathing. Inhale. Exhale, course at the core. Pelvic floor will gather up and in. Keep going. Inhale. Make sure you exhale completely. Pursed lips helps immensely. You can start to get a little curl to the sitting bones here. 1 more. Inhale. Exhale. Keep the chin a little bit down. We're going to start to pedal the feet. Take an inhale. And then exhale, extend the right leg out. You can pull the left knee in for a little more tension. Inhale, return to center. And then exhale, extend the left leg out. Keep going side to side a few more times. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. A few more. One more on each side. Last one. And then knees into the chest. Remove the band, rock a little bit side to side. Now come on to hands and knees, and you're going to make your way into child's pose. And you're going to let the hips lift up a little bit. You're going to rest your head on something. That may be the floor, it may be a block, it may be your hands. And allow yourself to soften and breathe into the pelvic floor. If you've had any type of trauma to the pelvic floor, this can be a safe place to start releasing, relaxing, and engaging. I've worked with many clients with trauma to this part of the body, and this is one of those safe spaces where they can start to feel there again. Two more rounds of breathing. One more. And then come onto hands and knees, and you're going to slide the left arm underneath your right. So it's a thread the needle twist. The right arm can go wherever allows you to be released and relaxed. And this is another place where you can practice breathing into the pelvic floor. Resist the temptation to make it about a twist, a deep twist, really working the twist. And again, stay focused on the pelvic floor. Part of what happens here is the twist doesn't allow you to backbend or flare your ribs. So it helps stack the rib cage over the pelvis. And remember that you need your bones aligned, that stack to happen for the musculature to engage and the respiratory diaphragm, pelvic floor diaphragm to start talking. When you're ready, come up onto the hands and knees position and just slide into the second side. And keeping that soft, inquisitive energy, come out of the twist and make your way into a wide-legged stance. And you're going to rock a little bit side to side. You'll inhale, bend one knee, lean to that side. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale, bend the other knee. Exhale, back to center. Do that a few times. And if you want to go low in more of this Skandasana variation, feel free to do so. It can open up the inner thigh line. But again, make sure you're doing something that allows you to stay focused and present with the pelvic floor versus something that takes you into more performative, doing the shape, making the pose. And then when you're complete, you're going to forward fold, let your head hang. Many students get more release in the upper back by turning the palms up and then reaching through the legs so the backs of the hands are on the floor. And then again, a few rounds of breathing here. This is another place where many women will be able to access the pelvic floor for the first time. Allow for that opening and releasing on the inhale, the engaging and lifting on the exhale. One of those may be a little bit intimidating or even scary, but remember, functionality depends on both opening and contracting of the muscle. It's the fist example. And then lift up a little bit. You're going to heel toe your feet closer together. Bend your knees and you're going to come into a squat, but you're going to keep your heels down. The legs are going to stay relatively heavy. And then you're going to lift your hips up and fold in a little bit. Do that 4 more times. Inhale when you bend. You don't need to go deep. We're looking for support and power. And then exhale when you straighten. Direct your attention to the pelvic floor when you bend your knees. Allow the pelvic floor to expand. When you straighten the legs, pelvic floor up, belly up, ribs in and up, drop the head. 2 more. One more. And then we're going to do something I call the ugly forward bend. You're going to really root from sitting bones to heels. And with your next exhale, come up 1/3. Inhale, pause. Exhale, another third. Inhale, pause. Exhale up the last third. And then you want to come up stacked. Heels, sitting bones, shoulder blades, skull. Last two things, tiptoe pose and then Bandha breathing. Hands on your low belly, lift your heels enough and then lower down without rocking back onto the heels and lifting the toes. So you inhale and you want to feel zipped up from the inner heels all the way to the crown of your head. Keep that internal lift even as you ground the heels down. 3 more. Resist getting wobbly in the rib cage, that ribs forward, butt back pattern, or tucking under, which is more gripping and grabbing. Last one. And bringing it all together, you're going to inhale, sweep the arms up and around, fingertips touch at the top. Exhale, bring your hands down through the core of the body, press your breath out. It's almost like a plunger that as you press the hands down, press the breath out, the pelvic floor lifts up, low belly pulls back, ribs are in and back. Do a few more. Inhale. Exhale. Three more. And you'll see that as I bend the knees, I'm not doing anything with the pelvis. I'm just staying very neutral in pelvis and rib cage. That's the key. Stacking, breathing, restoring internal balance. Let's do one more. And then put one hand on your low belly, one hand on your ribs. Stand up, balance the pelvis over your heels, balance your rib cage over your pelvis, and then your head over your rib cage. Remember that you can restore your root support. You can reclaim your pelvic floor power. And yes, it will take work. Yes, it's going to take training, but it will benefit every system in your body. Thank you for being here. Thank you for practicing.